Welcome back to Online Darts, everyone. It's that time again, Mase. We've been trying to do this for a while, but diaries haven't synced up and we've got plenty to chew the fat on. Yeah,
it's been a while. I can't believe it's been so long, and yeah, plenty has happened since our last catch-up.
Yeah, first of all, we're going to talk about you. The World Seniors, that the result didn't go according to plan, but there was some sparks in there and you seem to enjoy it, and there's that passion just to go and do this again in terms of seniors, not full-blown.
Yeah, the fact that it hurt, that told me that there's a little bit of fire burning in the belly, not quite as much as Gary Anderson, unfortunately, or the ability. That would be nice. But yeah, it's smarted. On reflection, I got it all wrong in terms of preparation, but my workload changed and I was back and forward to Stratford in central London covering the tournaments I didn't know we were going to be doing in Bahrain and Copenhagen, so that sort of upset my plans, and then I was back and forward to North Wales, so I lost out in probably 2 weeks of match practice, and then I just went in there a little bit cold, and yeah, it was tough. Even being first on the opening day of the tournament, you just don't feel like you're in it. And although there was a great bunch of lads on my session, back in the day, you'd always have practiced someone on that session, so you automatically link up and you go, right, do 1, 2, 1s, yeah, should we do this, should we do tons, should we do balls? And yeah, I had none of that, but no excuses. I thought Terry was outstanding. It was a good, fun game. And yeah, it was, that side of it was quite enjoyable, and there was a few nice moments in there, but all in all, Terry was the right winner.
Seniors in general, we'll stay on this theme, is going from strength to strength. Robert Thornton defending his title and proved that champion's mentality, because going in, his form was horrific.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so was Terry's, to be honest. I had a look at that. I had a little nose around because he was playing a bit of ADC stuff and a bit of local stuff. And he played down here in one of the weeks before, and he didn't play very well at all. And I thought, oh, I might just be catching him at the right time. But yeah, and in his decision to not do the Pro Tour or go to Q School, paid dividends. He had a look at the landscape and thought, well, look, I got the opportunity here at the Super Series. I've got all the senior stuff, which is gathering even more momentum with the recent announcements and the new tournaments coming up, and one of them's on terrestrial television, which is huge for the brand. And yeah, it's exciting, and it's just about enough of a bug for me to sort of keep me interested, and I'll be having another bite of the cherry playing in the Masters in Yeovil in June, and then, you know, if I can't prep right and get that right, then I'll probably have to reevaluate the situation. But in between that, I'm playing a couple of tour events on the World Seniors. I'm going to be having a week down here. I think there's going to be a plan for another sort of Legends week at the Super Series. So yeah, I'll be a little bit more prepared for it. And of course, having not been in that environment for so long, yeah, it was terrifying. I can't remember ever being as nervous.
Darts itself, going to go right back to the World Championships. Obviously, we spoke briefly before the final, and we said it was going to be a great game. But I don't think anyone expected the drama that we had, and arguably one of the greatest legs we will ever see.
Yeah, it's unforgettable. It's one of those, and it's the way it's crossed over into UFC and MMA and other sportsmen recognizing what an incredible moment for our sport, and it gives our sport a lot more respect as well. And yeah, what a moment. And both of us fancied that, you know, Michael Smith will eventually cross the line, more so after winning the Slam, of course. I think that was the big one for him, and it just basically took the pressure off, and we saw the very best of Michael Smith. But a special mention, absolute class, as always, Michael van Gerwen in defeat. You know, he's just a class act.
Yeah, look, and we saw so many breakthrough moments at this World Championship, from Michael Smith to Gabriel Clements in terms of a German market. We saw the numbers being banded around were enormous. Astronomical. Yeah, and of course, where I cover it for TalkSport, and right next to our area is the Germans area. So we were getting plenty of feedback from them, and we interviewed a couple of their staff that work on the media side of things, and they were telling us the numbers. And
it was sort of 1 million, then going 1.5 million, 1.75 million, 2 million, and of course it breached at over 3 million, which is, I do believe they told us it was their second most viewed sport on that particular platform, and in its darts, which is great. And of course, numbers from Belgium were huge as well, well over 500,000. Yeah, all in all, the PDC must look back at that tournament and go, wow, considering where we've been and coming through the whole lockdown thing and playing behind closed doors, it was almost fitting that whoever the gods may be sort of looked down on us and gave us such a massive tournament.
Yeah, and off the back of that, in terms of territories and everything that we speak about like that, obviously we went to Bahrain for the first time, and look, the standard wasn't particularly great from some of the qualifiers. However, these things take time, and we've seen it in other areas before. You have to start somewhere. You covered it for ITV and whatever, and as a spectacle, it's a breakthrough moment that we're back in the Middle East.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge, and that's one thing you've got to credit the PDC with doing many things right, but they're always open to suggestion and take it to new territories, and where it fits a certain demographic that want to watch our sport, why not? I think the crowd were too far away from the stage. The venue may be a bit too big, but you have to start somewhere. In terms of standard, darts is brand new. I remember us taking the Euro Tour to countries and seeing their regional qualifiers. They weren't exactly particularly great shakes, but you have a look at the German players we've got now, and players from all over Europe, which are doing bits, and you have to start from somewhere. But it's not necessarily taking the brand there to all of a sudden create another Michael van Gerwen or another Gabriel Clemens. It's more about establishing the product in other territories and getting other broadcasters involved, which in turn creates more money, and the players earn more money. It's not rocket science.
Call me a cynic, but we all know the ties that Matchroom have out in that neck of the woods. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a Middle East part of the World Series, Bahrain, maybe back to Dubai, Saudi Arabia, but especially with the amount of boxing we see in Saudi, you could see that link happening. Yeah,
well, that whole skills challenge thing, and the Khalid is so interested in getting sport as part of a mainstream. Of course, it's no secret to how things have been in that part of the world, and I think there's definitely a change, and whether it be football, we've seen the World Cup there, of course, in Qatar, whether it be darts, whether it be boxing. Listen, sport is great. Sport brings people together. Sport creates opportunities, and ask Michael Smith, sport makes dreams come true.
Only place fairy tales happen in sport.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew Gilding, the most recent. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's from my side, obviously coming initially through boxing, and there's a lot of sad stories, but there's also a lot of great stories. Anthony Joshua being one of them. When you think that he was a lad that was in and out of trouble all the time and looked destined to probably spend the majority of his time bang behind the door. However, was given a second chance in boxing, went up to Sheffield, got involved with the GB system, and not only has he made himself a lot of money, he's also inspired a lot of young people to get off the streets and get in the gym and other things that you don't hear about in the mainstream of money he raises and contributes, and sport changes lives.
From there, Mase, Q School.
Yeah.
So many stories around this year's Q School. So I'm going to go to the obvious one first, because it was huge when he entered. It was huge when he won his card, and it's been huge because he hasn't played. Corey Caddie, what a story, good, bad, and sad at the same time.
Yeah, listen, it's one of those. I'm a great believer. If you work hard for a second chance, just let him get on with it and deserve it, and he deserves to get a second chance. He's obviously worked extremely hard in not only his game, but in getting himself mentally right, and making changes in his life and his lifestyle. So and I thought it was a great story, him coming back, doing it in Europe because he couldn't get into the UK. And then, my goodness, didn't he throw some great stuff en route?
That was the impressive thing, that we didn't know. We said, where's his game going to be? We don't know. And, okay, it wasn't the highs we saw, but it wasn't that far off either.
No, it wasn't. He, considering the pressure he must have been under and the pressure he must have been feeling to not only... It's not only someone offering you the opportunity, it's the pressure that comes with it. You know, it's like when you sign big sponsorship deals, you know, and you've got that big patch on, there's extra pressure because you need to justify why they've had so much confidence in you. And I thought he did brilliant, and it's just disappointing that he's not been able to compete so far. I'm not privy to the ins and outs. And there's no point making presumptions, but whatever happens, I just wish him all the best. And from a selfish point of view and a darting point of view, I hope he gets whatever's sorted, and you know, whatever the problem is, get that sorted and get over and start competing.
We saw what a product the Super Series is at Q School. As well, the second year in a row that anyone that's played here regularly and consistently went on and done very well at Q School. Graham Usher being the standout story, and what a fairy tale that is as well, because we've seen him on this very stage be absolutely sensational, and he translated that and won his card.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, this isn't you know, he's not old, but he's certainly not young, and it just shows you that, again, hard work, dedication. Come in here religiously, getting put through the absolute ringer. When you then go to Q School, you're at such a huge advantage because you've had all that competitive, you've been in that arena, you've been under pressure, you've been under the lights. And it's not a coincidence that so many of these players have gone on to do well in not just this year, but the year before, and long may it continue. And this is why, not just I work here, I've said it consistently, even when we were back in Southampton and, you know, playing in under limited conditions, that this has a place in the sport across all levels.
Q School itself threw up so many stories, it was unreal, and this was the first year in a while that it felt like a proper Q School. Do you know what I mean by that? There's been a little bit question marks over it, but it felt like a proper qualifying school.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I'd probably make a few tweaks as we all would, but I think that's why I'd like to see. Obviously, Rod Arrington was part of the board of the PDC, but his time of playing and how it became and how it evolved was totally different, and all the best for Rod. I do believe he's retired and struggling in Spain playing golf every day. Don't know how he copes. But yeah, I think it'd be nice to have someone a bit younger involved in it to give the PDC ultimate feedback. I think this year's Q School, for me, in terms of qualifiers, is probably the most successful yet, in terms of those that deserve their card, with the exception of Conan Whitehead. We shouldn't have a system where it's beneficial not to play than play. Well, that's a flaw.
Well, that was next on my system, on my list for you, that there was a couple of ones that it worked out that if Conan hadn't have played on that last day, he would have actually won his card. Yeah. And there was one in Europe, I think it was Pascal Reprec, sorry if I've butchered his name, that he pulled, that he probably 99.9% certain would have won a card anyway because he was in such a good position. But he'd worked out that if he didn't play, because he wasn't going to lose any leg difference and whatever, he'd already got it.
Yeah, and I know it's a rarity, but it's just, and it might not happen very often, and but ultimately there's a flaw in there, and as we know, listen, the PDC is an evolving machine, as is Matchroom, which, you know, it's part and parcel of it all. They will look at things as they do and make changes. Me personally, I'd like to see a huge change. I would keep a Q School, but I would absolutely limit it. I want to see the challenge tour used for what it should be. I think if there's, for example, 28 cards, the top 20 over the course of a year, big sample of darts, not just
4 days.
4 days. I'd still have a Q school, but I'd do it so 4 winners in the UK and 4 winners in Europe.
And then the order of merit gets you onto the Challenge Tour?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think you need to reward your challenge, the commitment. We hear a lot from Matt Porter, and rightly so. It's all about commitment to the system, commitment to the product, and we do see that commitment. And I don't think they get rewarded enough. Getting in the UK Open, top 8 from Challenge, top 8 from Dev. That's a nice little token, but ultimately they're spending a lot of money over the course of a long time, and I think that would make the ones that come through Q School far better. You would ultimately, or should, if you created a fair Q School system, that you will get the best players available, and that's what we want. We want the top 128 player in the world, 128 players in the world, not those that manage to navigate through a bit of good fortune, a handy draw, a bit of good form over a few days. How they do that, I don't know, but that's why they get the big bucks.
It wouldn't be an interview if we didn't bring Fallon up as well, because there were a lot of question marks around her. One, going into the World Championships,
yeah,
and 2, would she go to Q School, wouldn't she? How close was she? And she played some absolutely sublime stuff. And look, we see Rob Collins here. I don't think he's played that well.
No.
Just that one game.
Yeah, and that's that bit. I don't like to use the word luck, but more a bit of fortune. And she didn't have a lot go her way. But what she did prove is, when she applies herself and she's fully committed and putting in the hours, she is a very, very good player. We hear a lot about, but what Bo's achieved in the women's series, unbelievable, absolute dominance, and she's an incredible player. Is she ready to be thrown in as a 128 tour card holder? Absolutely not. And people go, oh, she's unbelievable, she's better than you. Probably is, but the truth is, her average, which is way superior to anything I could achieve, wouldn't put her in the top 100. And that's we tend to sometimes lose reality. Do I think she's one of the best female players I've ever seen? Absolutely. Could she go on and do stuff in the men's game? If she continues, she's 18 years of age, but let her develop, let her grow. There's so many people like sort of pushing her to, and Fallon at that. And yet again, if the PDC have a duty of care. There was a lot of talk of, was Luke Humphries ready for the Premier League? I know we're going to talk about that in a minute. And again, Matt said, it's our opinion that he's not ready, and what he's gone on, how he's playing at the moment. He's done the right thing. He's going, well, I'm showing you I was ready. And listen, Matt Porter was 100% right. He will be in the Premier League, and it was a bit like we used to say about Michael Smith. It's not if, it's when. And if Bo continues to show these incredible improvements and the growth in her game and her own maturity, who knows where she can go? But people sort of screaming out, give her a tour card, or she can do this and she can do that. Just leave her alone. Let her grow. Let her blossom, and don't rush it.
From there, the Masters.
Amazing.
Yet again, it throws up a surprise, but also in that surprise, it gave the PDC a serious headache. At
migraine. I said to Matt at the time, you ain't got a headache, you got a migraine, pal. Yeah, another brilliant story though. But listen, our game just continues to give. It's been incredible. We've had eras of dominance from Taylor, and then Michael's era of dominance, and then just of late, I think the UK Open, that's our 7th different winner in 7 years or something. It's and the Masters is becoming that thing. And again, I'd like to see changes made there. I'd like to see it, if we're going to call it the Masters, let's play the Masters format, sets and legs, best of 3 legs a set. Let's throw it open add one more session to it, or somehow manage to squeeze it in, top 16 in the order of merit, top 16 over the course of 12 months going into it, and rank it and seed it. It would seed itself using that similar system to what they do in other events, Grand Prix, World Match Play, and because it always gets this thing about its credibility, you know, that it's just Rob Cross was very vocal of what he thought about it, you know, disappointing for everybody involved, disappointing for us as a broadcaster, trying to promote something, and disappointing for the PDC who spend an absolute fortune on that event, and it is one of those events that they could go, do you know what, bin it off. Yeah, that was disappointing. You know, it was almost following down that line Ronnie had for a while, wasn't it? You know, and it's just sad. But that's I like Rob. I think he's a great player. He's a great lad, and I just think he explained. I don't think.
He explained it the way he meant to.
Yeah. I think he got a little confused on that moment. And listen, he's still smarting from this whole thing of being European champion and then being left out of the Premier League. Well, they did the same to Ross Smith, so at least there's a little bit of consistency there. They did it to Danny Noppert. They did it to the number 5 in the world, Luke Humphries. So, you know, it's not like he can feel he's been singled out. It's just one of those things. But tremendous for Chris Dobey. Yeah, it's just, again, this remarkable period that we're going through in our sport just keeps giving.
Oh, Chris's run as well, he was so consistent that all the averages around that mid-90s, okay, he didn't go to the big ones, but consistency was key to Dobey's run and triumph.
Yeah, he's a proper dart player, and we've been saying it for years, you know, he's a proper dart player. He's fit as a butcher's dog. He's one of this new breed of players that doesn't drink like when he's playing. He's very rarely berates himself. It's a lot of 1080s. He's got a good look. He's a Geordie, which is great. Lovely on and off the hockey. Great attitude, great action. It's lots of 1080s. It's perfect for our sport. There's what's not to like. Promoter's dream.
As the Masters were unfolding, obviously we're up on that balcony, and we just kept looking at each other and looking at each other. Would you have loved to have seen that WhatsApp chat as it was unfolding?
Yeah, I actually spoke to Matt on the Saturday, and I said, now and again I envy your job travelling all over the world. I said, but not this weekend, mate. You can keep it, and the salary that goes with it. Yeah, it must have been a nightmare for him, because there was no win-win solution, you know, and someone was going to miss out, and we could always, you know, I can make a case for a further 4 players to be in that were left out, and the 4 players that you could have said, well, hang on a minute, and the problem is, when you get the explanation, it just doesn't quite add up. Hang on a minute, if it's about, it can't be about TV form and have Johnny Clayton in it, you know what I mean, or vice versa. You can't not be ready when you're putting Chris Dobey in, who's never been anywhere near the Premier League himself, you know, and yeah, but again, no, there was no 100% perfect solution, and on the flip side, what a wonderful position to be in, where the 8 just don't pick themselves.
Just picking this back up, otherwise it would have dropped off. On the selection, obviously, we found out that we weren't going to get anything that night. They were going to sleep on it. When the announcement came through, did the 8 surprise you? Well, not the 8. Did the 4 surprise you?
No, because you can make a case for and a case against. Ultimately, the PDC don't really do guesswork. You know, they just don't. You know, I'm fascinated when I get the opportunity to talk to people who work there, and I go, well, you know, like, genuine question, how do you, and they go, well, we'll show you this, and, you know, this new world we live in, it tells them, look, this would probably be the right selection. You know, it's not necessarily, but everything's taken into account. Age, effect, duty of care. And I know people say, well, all the tickets are sold and everything else like that. Yeah, well, it's not every venue is absolutely banged out. And then you've got the broadcaster, then you've got the viewer at home, and then you've got merchandise, and then you've got spin-offs from that. What people would watch this because he's in it that would then go up and watch or subscribe to other things. So it wasn't guesswork. It was what they looked at and analysed and said, right, this is what we feel is the right choice. And like, I can understand. Listen, if I was a relative or a friend or a manager of one of those that missed out, I can totally understand the frustration. I personally, Joe Cullen is absolute Premier League material, right? Good-looking lad. It's lots of 1080s, loads of big finishes, crowd favourite, great walk-on. Missed a double by that far to win it. Gets left out. That one I don't get. But I suppose someone has to go to make room for somebody else. But that's the harsh reality. It is savage, absolutely savage. And again, that's another element that the PDC got to look at. How are the players going to react? And that whole duty of care thing. So, yeah, it's something I loved covering for the radio when we did it a few times. But yeah, there must be an absolute ball ache to be involved in and try and make the right decisions.
Going into that Masters on the Premier League, the couple that were on the cusp definitely had the memo, didn't they? Because we saw Ross Smith very vocal, and also on his walk-on, he was like throwing down T-shirts, trying to get on. And I get why they've done this, and obviously managers and whatever have said, look, you need to do something here. And Ross wasn't the only one as well, by the way, but he sticks in my mind because he like, right, I'm going to grab a load of T-shirts and then throw them into the crowd and everything like that. And then also his interview off the back of winning this weekend, it was still a little bit salty, where he was like, yeah, I'll be a load of Premier League players on the way.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit of tongue-in-cheek from Ross, but I think players need to look at the way they market and promoting themselves. I was a PR disaster, and we live in a different world. I know a lot. Listen, as a boxing purist, I hate all this YouTuber stuff and everything else. But you look at Tommy Fury against Jake Paul, two absolutely bang average guys that wouldn't be the best fighters in the gym. Never mind, winning area titles or whatever else. They earn more money because of the way they promote themselves.
Well, 750,000 pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, and it's staggering. And those 750,000 pay-per-view buys, probably less than 10% of them are boxing fans. But they promote, they market, they understand. They understand the rules and they know how to play it, and it's very clever. And players have got to be aware of that. And market themselves accordingly. You imagine a 20-year-old Eric Bristow around nowadays with everything that we've got. He would have ended up doing some kind of, I don't know, YouTuber boxing and getting paid like obscene amounts of money, and fair play to them. It's not. I don't dislike Tommy or Jake Paul or any of the misfits things that's going on, but don't tell me it's boxing. Don't tell me it's even fighting, because it's not. But it just shows you the power of modern promotional tools, and players have got to be aware of that now. We want to take this game to another level. We want to reach another audience. I was watching the Michael Smith interview with Ariel. He's got like over 1 million subscribers, right? This is an MMA guy. Not even like doesn't really know anything about. Well, he didn't know anything about darts, but somehow randomly ended up coming across the PDC World Championship final. Next thing you know, he's got Michael Smith on there, not for like a, hi, yeah, that was great. Michael was on there for like 45 minutes. And then you got Eddie on there talking about it. Like that, and that's where the PDC have got it right. It's that crossover. It's about getting different eyes on our sport. And again, I've said it before. That was the importance of what Fallon achieved in the Worlds, and then what she then did for our sport when she went to New York. You know, the media attention, and again, it's getting new eyes on our sport.
On the Premier League itself, we've done the picks. MVG is dominating the Premier League without playing well. He's already told the world that he's at the O2.
I think he's pretty much got a foot in the door.
Was this the worry about this format, that last year it didn't happen, but this year it has, that one player has dominated? He's won 3 nights on the bounce and lost in a final, but 4 out of 6 he's been in the final.
Yeah, and unexpectedly really, because he's not played particularly well. But is that down to how the players that are in it this year view him? Is it down to some of the form of the players that shouldn't have been picked? That's harsh. Could have been left out and brought fresh blood in. Results-wise tells me that maybe the picks were not quite right. But is that because we've gone from the World straight into Bahrain, straight into Copenhagen, straight into the Masters, and we're seeing a bit of fatigue? I don't know. I'm not sure. I've actually really enjoyed it, and I'm not a massive Premier League fan. I went last year to Sheffield, and it was unbelievable. We were talking about this earlier. I went to the last one before lockdown in Liverpool, which was obviously the old format, wasn't it? Didn't quite capture my imagination as much as this. But I know you've done a few interviews on it. I know you spoke to Matt about it, and it is very much fan-friendly right now, like as
fan in the venue.
Venue, and a lot of people I've spoken to are finding it hard viewing, and it's with anything. It's you've got to get bums on seats, because that sells it, and then you've got to find a way of retaining the viewer. Viewing figures at the moment, not great.
No, we saw over 50% down from week 1 to week 5.
Yeah, but I think we're coming to a little bit of a turning point in the way people watch TV and what they're prepared to subscribe to. We've got a huge financial crisis in this country, and maybe people just can't afford to pay, and it's not cheap, is it, having Sky, and then if you have BT, and then
your Netflix, your Amazon Prime,
DAZN, which is again, that's gone up again in price. Not if you pay for it in one go. So is there a change coming? Are we seeing a bit of a change where they have to realise that, listen, we can't afford to. They pay an absolute fortune, of course, for the broadcast rights for the Premiership. So they're almost being twisted into what they've got to charge, because, again, it's a numbers game, isn't it? And I don't think there is an answer, but I've got a funny feeling we may see another broadcaster come in for a lot of sport, and make it affordable for the general public. Look on getting the bigger numbers. You can have 5 at a tenner, or 500 at a fiver. And I think we may see someone come in and take a gamble for all sorts of different sports. I don't think the Premier League broadcast rights sustainable, and the demographic of people that watch the Premier League, they'll be watching it for nothing.
Yeah. On the Premier League as well, it's been some interesting bits. The last 3 weeks, I want to pick on a point, having been there, that I get in Dublin, but in Exeter and Liverpool, Peter Wright being physically booed in the last 3 venues. I get in Dublin, the Irish booing a Scot. I kind of understand it to a degree, but
they loved Caddie.
But he's always been a fan favourite, and in Dublin, you could see him. He didn't know how to take it, and it shook him up a little bit. And I was like, okay.
What was the tournament towards the back end of last year where he was involved? Was it Adrian Lewis? Players' Championship?
It was 18 months ago. It was not Players' Championship.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a change there, wasn't there?
It's weird. He's gone from fans' favourite to being booed.
I have noticed that. And listen, we know about it if something had happened, but yeah, quite bizarre. But Gezzy's been getting a lot of support lately.
They loved him in Liverpool.
Yeah.
He had the pantomime boos at the top of the walk-on.
It's nearly in North Wales, isn't it?
Yeah, the pantomime booed him at the top of the walk-on, but he was like, and then they was literally singing Gezzy Price.
Yeah, which is great. I love to see that, because those of us that know him for him, he's just an absolutely adorable fella. There's not, I think he's great. I think he's box office, as you know, but it is what it is. I just think, I don't. He's not a mate of mine. I don't sort of ring him up and go out with him or anything like that. And if I see him, I go, "How you doing, bud? You all right, mate?" Blah blah blah. And that's about it. I just look at it as a fan, and I think he's been a breath of fresh air. I like the fact that he won't do reputation. The whole thing with Gary Anderson, and everybody knows I'm a massive pal of Gary's, and that. It is what it was, but ultimately it put eyes on our sport, whether it be for the right or wrong reasons. They went at it, they both showed their passion, and I thought it was great, and they both had to pay the price ultimately, especially Gezzy. But yeah, look at how many people. I can be walking around like a supermarket, and around about that time, Gezzy Price, all the Gary Anderson, you know what I mean? And people talk about, there's certain players that
they still talk about that incident today.
Yeah, and they talk about Gezzy Price. Well, if you're promoting something, they're doing the right job, and he's promoting himself. This is a guy that said something about, how long you play. Well, before I'm 50 or 50 houses. He's a smart man as well. He's made some shrewd investments. Good luck to him. I don't. Listen, he's a little bit different, but just let him get on and do his job. And I've always said, if I go to watch sport, I want to see it played at its optimum level. There's a reason why when you go to watch snooker, it's silent, so they can play to the optimum level. There's a reason why the Pro Tours play behind closed doors, and why the players love it. They can play at the optimum level.
We've mentioned him there, and it comes hand in hand with Pro Tours as well. We were concerned that a certain Scotsman may just about to disappear into the sunset, but someone's lit that fire and that burning desire. There were signs at the Masters that he loses with 110 average when Rob Cross was unplayable. He goes to the UK Open, again signs, a couple of missed starts against Dimitri, lost 10-8.
But another big average.
But another big average, beat James Wade with a ton topper. Then goes to the Pro Tour, gets to a final, we see 112 from him.
Yeah, en route.
Back on the Euro Tour, there are signs that someone has annoyed Gary Anderson for the good of us darts fans.
I think with Gary, he was making that transition of probably. Listen, he probably had enough money that he could have just retired and done what he wanted, but he loves his fishing. He made a massive investment in buying some fishing lakes to secure his future and his family's future and his kids' future. And he was very hands-on, and darts very much took a back seat. And I think at some point, whether it be certainly not me personally, but I don't know, other people within the industry going, "Oh, he's done, and that's it, he'll retire, he won't." Yeah, and then obviously Michael sort of sending him the odd text message after he won the Worlds, and I think, like I say, it's just a little bit of fire under him, and I've spoke to him, and for him it's a bit of fun now, and he wants to say, "All right, well, you think that's it?" And he loves proving people wrong. He loves taking a few quid off of people. So he's now doing just that, and 7 years away from the Euro Tour, qualifies for the Dutch one, narrowly missed out on doing the double and qualifying for the Austrian one. beaten by Barney in the final.
6-5.
6-5. But yeah, I think it's great to see. I mean, he's so good. He's another one. How can you not like him? If he's quick, he hits loads of 1080s, he's expressive, he gets stuck in, he lets you know how he's feeling, he's brilliant in interviews. He's another player that's just absolute box office.
And the funny thing now is that he's just outside the match play race, which is great. He's on the Euro Tour. Those seeds must be thinking, oh great.
Yeah.
One of us is going to get Gary Anderson in round 1, round 2, or whatever it will be. It's a horrid flow to that one.
Yeah, a lot of the new players, unless they're sort of students of the game, would be like, what? And they'll walk into him and go, all right, that's what you're on about. Yeah, a lot of the players, the established players, will be like, dead Andy, there's one out of the way. And now they're going, oh no, not another 5 years of this. Yeah. And listen, do not be surprised if he qualifies for the match play and goes and wins it, or gets in the slam and wins that, or World Cup, because that's a nice route for him into the slam.
Well, he's already confirmed he will play in the World Cup this year.
And yeah, I can see him. The way he's playing, how can you not predict he can win one? Because the numbers back it up.
Nice little segue there into the World Cup. Huge news.
Eventually get what I wanted at the World Cup.
Huge news has dropped that they are going to pairs only, round robin, group stage in round 1, so teams get a couple of games and pairs only. The fans have been crying for this, and again, the PDC have listened and delivered. Yeah,
there's nothing not to like. Nearly £500,000 in prize money, opportunities for players all over the world to not just go up and play one game. They're going to get a minimum of 2. It's pairs format all the way through, which is the way it should be in darts. If you're going to play a team event, I absolutely cannot wait. It's going to throw up surprises. It's going to create stories. It's going to create drama. It's going to get people from all over the world that may never have watched it. People are very passionate. You know, you did a brilliant interview with Damon Heta on the channel. And he said the impact on him winning the World Cup with Simon Whitlock when he went back was just mind-blowing. You know, because normally he said you can just walk around and, you know, they're very laid-back Aussies, you know, it's super competitive. But he said, you know, and you could see the amount of people that probably wouldn't have watched it, but because it's Australia and it's a World Cup, they're hooked. Well, that's exactly what the PDC are going to get now from countries around the world that may not have even contemplated showing darts. It's genius, absolute genius stroke.
And also, look at nearly, I'm going to say 98% of every drama we've seen in the World Cup
has been in the pairs.
It's been in the pairs.
Yeah. Well, I played in a couple of the World Pairs, which was a predecessor to the World Cup, and the moment Sholton and Barnaval came over and did the business, it was absolutely brilliant. I love the World Cup, don't get me wrong, but the World Pairs were brilliant because it put together, you know, I think Rod Arrington and Richie Burnett. Like me and Steve Raw, we made the final. Bob Anderson and Phil Taylor. You know, it was more manufacturer. It was with whichever manufacturer. Whether you weren't a manufacturer, me and Steve Raw were the 2 youngest ones. So they said, "Young guns, you play together."
Yeah.
And that used to be brilliant. But now that this has now gone to pairs, I think you just see a massive interest, and we could potentially get the only upsets we used to see was when it was pairs.
Team camaraderie is now huge, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is going to be that was one thing I learned from playing in it is, right, you nominate your captain, and I had a game where I just wasn't feeling it. I said, mate, you captain it, you go up for the ball and you get us off. You throw the opening visit, and you have to recognise that, and that will take a lot of bonding because you don't play. We used to play pairs all over the world. Every competition we played in, sort of ranking tournaments, had a pairs alongside it, and a threes and a mixed pairs, and so you got used to playing pairs darts, and it does take some. It just takes a bit of adjusting, and of course the tempo and the rhythm. Your faster players may not be as good as your steadier players. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait. I don't know. I might even go and watch it.
Euro Tour on TV, and also Chris Mason is going to pick up a microphone on the Euro Tour.
You never know, I'll be on Sky soon. I will not. Absolutely not. When darts go somewhere else, I'll be there. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm an absolutely massive fan of the Euro Tour. I think that's been the game changer for our sport over the years. Not in terms of just finding new talent, but the fan base, the numbers, the amount of people we now see at the World Championship travelling from Europe. I religiously watch it. I think the crowds are unbelievable. And I get to do the one in Holland, which I'm super excited about. Last time we were there, me personally, was for the World Series final. Dirk against Gezi Price, went to a deciding leg. The place, I don't know how the roof stayed on it, and yeah, it's new for me. Be working with a couple of new people, a new broadcaster, which is fascinating, a new production team. Always interesting to see how they like to do things and try and sort of fall in with what they want to do. Working with Dan Dawson, which is always interesting and hilarious. Yeah, can't wait, mate. I'm absolutely buzzing, thrilled to be asked to be part of it, and yeah, see where it goes from there.
You say on the broadcast as well, the Euro Tour on the TV as well. I know it's subscription, but still to have it physically, well, we've watched it on a phone or an iPad or a smart TV for years.
We've had subscription TV since.
But now it's actually on the telly box.
Did you have to have a TV license?
Before my time.
Yeah, and mine. Yeah, subscription TV's always been there, hasn't it? I don't know why people lose their mind over it. As long as it's affordable, and very much so, this is affordable. I think you can get just like a weekend pass, very much similar to what PDC TV was. So, you know, you're not necessarily going to have it all the time, but I'd get it that weekend. Come on, bump those numbers up for me. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And again, like you say, you can just press the button on your TV and watch it. Again, a massive step forward. I used to talk about the Euro Tour all the time, and lads down the pub, what's that?
Yeah. Now.
Yeah, what is it? Now, you know, I'm sure the promotional push of that is well on its way, and hopefully they're rewarded with their investment and they get some big numbers for it.
Finally, before we let you go, the UK Open, again, you won't be on many people's Christmas cards list after some of those draws and that you pulled up, but a new winner in Andrew Gilding as well.
Yeah, what a story! What a story! Yeah. Some of the, but that just shows it's not fixed.
That's what makes it the tournament.
Yeah, and that's what makes it special and unique. You know, you just do not know what's going to happen. And I rate Andrew Gilding, as you know. Me and you will often have a random phone conversation. Did you see his averages? And I'm not shocked he's won one.
No, not at all.
Because we seen him a couple of years ago playing MVG in a semi-final and averaging 108 and getting beat. I think it went to a deciding leg, didn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, or there was one or two legs between them. So he's shown he can play. We've seen him in 110 averages, 112 averages, 108 averages on the Pro Tour. So the guy's got game, and he timed everything to perfection. But poor Michael must be thinking, what happened? You know, he never used to lose a last legger, but his longest leg in the 10 winning legs for Gilding in that final was 16 darts.
That's exceptional.
Yeah. Stunning performance. No, he didn't have any massive averages, but he didn't need to, and it was an experienced performance all the way. Didn't panic, was rock solid all the way through, and just managed to hold it all together to beat a guy in a last leg shootout. They don't lose too many last leg shootouts, and again, class from Michael in the final. I know he was absolutely devastated. He was desperate to win, and we know he's a winning machine. I think he could win 1,000 tournaments and would still want to win 1,001. That's just the way he is. But yeah, a super story for Andrew Gilding. And I've never known the crowd get so on side with one person. It's probably because he's just normal.
It's the underdog as well, isn't it? It's like that underdog mentality.
It's perfect. He's normal, doesn't over-celebrate, he's real quiet, doesn't have a lot to say. And they were singing that gold all the way through the final. They literally just took to him and took him on board, and yeah, it's a great story, and it just goes to show anything is possible in sport. And again, another example, sport makes dreams come true.
Studio 36 as well at Minehead was obviously the home for Board 2. Reds is going to go back to being Board 2. I'm guessing, will Studio 36 become the media hub, do you reckon?
I would. It's a nice big media hub.
And the practice room as well, because that used to be in the Crazy Horse.
Me personally, if we're going to have it in Studio 36, I'd put stage 2 at one end and all the other boards down the other, and I'd have it all in one room. So people can go and watch stage 2, or they can filter around. Or ultimately, I'd have the Premier League in there on a Thursday night, and then just let them unpack. We go in Reds, we have centre stage, stage 2, back to normal. I do believe we're having a new media suite bill with heaters and that.
And internet?
And internet, honest. But yeah, I don't know. Reds has just got something special about it. It's that mixture of
low ceiling,
lakeside circus tavern, old school,
being close to the players as well.
And the players don't mind playing in there. I know they get a little bit. They don't particularly like playing on the outer boards.
Oh no, Nathan and Adi were like, give me someone big on that main stage any day of the week.
Yeah, exactly. But you can only have so many players on the main stage, and that is what it is. And again, it's the PDC's call on who goes on that main stage. ITV have no influence where anybody plays.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, and I understand that Michael, Gezzy, Peter, Smithy are big draws, and I get that. But early on, is there an argument that they don't need to be on the main stage, and there are other stories to put on there?
I think they do that. I think we forget quite quickly. Of course, they're not in the draw early on. So we're still broadcasting, and a lot of players, you know, we opened up main stage with Luke
Littler
and Nick Fulwell. You know, you can get, you know, the youngest person in the tournament with one of the most experienced. I think, in all credit, Graham Ferris tries to mix it up as much as he can, but he's another one who's probably got a job that there's no wrong, but there's no right, but you can't keep everybody happy. I understand where you're getting from with regards to can we have, I don't know.
Like we pretty much know that those 4, 9 times out of 10 are always going to be on main stage.
Yeah, and I understand you're saying, we see them all at the Premier League all the time. We see them all the time. Is there a solution? I suppose we'd have to look down, look at the draw, look where players ended up, and then go. On that final session on the Saturday, you know, you looked at it and you thought, well, I'd probably have had that one instead of that one, and then there's a case. But most of the other time as well, I suppose, I don't think there's an answer. I get what you're saying. Listen, as a broadcaster, I often go, ooh. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was one particular session where I said, well, I'd have probably swapped that one around, but then it was such and such a player, and you know, you're dogged if you do and dogged if you don't. It's just one of those things, really. But all in all, wonderful tournament. But yeah, for next year, we're back in Reds. All back to normal next year anyway, but I'd like to see, and I don't know why they don't do it, because there'd be no broadcast conflict, because they get all their trucks in. That venue's more than big enough for a Premier League, and what a bonus to offer players who are coming for the UK Open get a session at the Premier League as well. Probably cost them a ton of money, but I'm good at spending PDC money.
Mate, we've done an hour, mate, so I will let you get on as always, mate. It's a pleasure to pick your brain on all things darts.
Cheers, pal. Always a pleasure.